live.
Yeah, right. So again, so that service, that's all actually through. You are live, by the way.
Oh, I see.
So definitely not folding.
Okay, we're live, everybody.
No, it's
We are streaming. We are hot mic'd.
Cold today, hot tomorrow, hot Pete, that's all. This is gonna be our seat for soon.
There isn't one, right?
What?
A Wi-Fi password?
You have your own individual one, but I mean, you'd have to ask Brian for the
I
public.
think it's free.
Yeah.
Well, ask Brian.
I don't find that it works very well, but. Yeah,
Just what's
because it's
upstairs in the
really
back.
Join the public and then visit the page and all that.
It's the last time I used that gavel. Yeah. City public, Peter. Okay, so this is our last budget session, work session, I assume, well, at least for this year, 2016. So the mayor will not be with us this evening, and I just want to say to the managers who came tonight, I put out a call to ask you to come, not necessarily because we want to rake through your budgets again. We're not going to repeat that. We're not going to go back and do that, so don't worry about that. But because we're about to make some big decisions in the next 3 weeks, I thought that it would be appropriate for you to be here to hear the rationale for what we're thinking about, and that you have an opportunity, if you have questions of us, so that you're fully informed about what's going on. So I appreciate you being here. I don't know how long we'll be here. I don't think we're going to be going all night on this, but if you guys want to, that's fine. Richard is coming with. Mike, did you happen to print out the amendments, the list that Jim had done?
I have them on my computer, and I suppose...
Okay, it's all right. Richard went back to get them.
Oh,
We're still trying to see what we can see, and once we get the mayor's list of amendments, his feeling was that with the amendments that we had pulled together in the past now 2 months in terms of cuts out of the original budget, sorry, I have to use my cell phone on this, which included removing out of fire salary the battalion chief, let's see, overtime, 90,000 in overtime, and given the change in staffing policy.
That was good.
Okay.
We won't forget you.
No, take a picture of it.
$100,000 in overtime because of the change in staffing policy, as well as some other lines, including savings in health insurance, and of course, by taking positions out, savings in benefits. And then what we talked about last week, the Akey landfill grant, adjustment to the debt service, and let's see, and you guys chime in if you recall these, because I'm trying to read them and understand this off a phone. The position, I got parking, the parking violations. Yeah, that position, parking officer with benefits, $66,000. And then we have cleaner on here. We don't have specifically how to do this in the budget, but the point, as we again discussed last week, was what we're paying now for contracted services as opposed to hiring for it. And it was, I believe, it was going to be a wash, except for the fact that the contractors are increasing their pay by what, 20,000? Was that?
I think that's correct.
So it would in fact be a
Right.
savings if we did that. Although of course you're adding benefits. So to hire a cleaner to do both police department, city hall. Let's see, what else do I think that's what I have on there. So.
We had the city historian.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing that Richard actually took out in the adjusted budget that he sent us. I didn't see the change in positions, and I did not otherwise see a change. So I think all he took out was the $6,000 in the city historian. But the estimation, so this is what we're looking at now. Tonight, we're going to go through and do what we promised to do. We said was our obligation, our charge, is to see if we can find more savings. And everyone, comes to the table tonight to offer whatever else they may have found, and any questions they might have for any departments. I have a couple of questions about several lines. So that's what we're doing now, and we have to start thinking seriously about amendments to the budget. So, we can, next week at the regular session, have amendments to the budget which are not completely, let me finish with that. Which don't obligate us in terms of we have to stick with those amendments. We can always change in January at subsequent meetings. But we can entertain the amendments we want. I would like to entertain the amendments that have been put together and listed by the mayor. I believe those savings lead us to the point, and still waiting for Richard to come back to confirm. So don't take this as gospel, but that his estimation was a 7.9% tax increase, given that savings, in order to balance the budget. Mike has proposed a 22% tax increase, which would go to not only balancing the budget, but replenishing the fund balance in a pretty quick manner. So we're going to have to come to a point where, in the past couple of years, we've had unanimity on the council with the budget. We've gotten to the budget, and we've all agreed that that's what we want to do with it. I think that's different this year. We have a different take and disagreements on how to proceed, as well as what we want to do going forward. So at some point, we're going to have to propose amendments, vote on them, decide what we want to do, see what where the majority of the council stands in terms of raising taxes to the extent that the fund balance is replenished, or, obviously, we need to do what we need to do in order to balance the budget.
I
So,
just have a question
Yeah,
to
Michelle.
clarify. I don't think Mike's budget that forecasted, that gave us the view of what a 22% increase would look like included, did it, Mike, the amendments that Mayor Calnon just
It
listed?
did not include
So-
$372,000 in fund balance for
As
this
well,
year
right.
either. So
right.
each of those represents, well, the 372 is maybe 3%, and the, what was it, 869 will be about 9%
Right.
roughly, so
Right.
that, if those savings that the mayor identified are real, then that would certainly be good. But the problem we've had for the last 5 years is that we budget, and then we, as a council, reach an impasse where we say, we don't think we could cut anything else, but we haven't met our target. So we hand it back to the mayor, and he comes up with these 11th hour cuts that, while noble, don't always work out. So I just want to be sure that this list of cuts that he has given us will actually pan out.
Well,
And if they don't, then we're going to be back in the same boat. We start out every year with a balanced budget. And by year end, we're $1 million in the hole. And the reason why we're $1 million in the hole is because the budget assumptions we make are often incorrect. So I just want to make sure, beyond the reasonable shadow of a doubt, that this list is accurate and that these things are actually going to happen.
Well, two things I would say to that. One is, this is not all the mayor. We were talking about almost immediately as soon as we got the budget, at least I was, when we got the budget and I looked at it, and one of the first things I asked, or rather when we were talking with the departments and they were giving us wish lists and telling us about positions, my first thought was something that you had actually mentioned months ago, which is first thing you start doing is you stop hiring new
Right.
positions.
Yeah,
So
you
to me,
freeze
that's a
positions.
given.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we had also talked about not filling what is vacated.
Right.
So I think that is as certain as we can know, that I mean, I don't know what more certainty we can get to say that we're not going to have this addition to the budget because we're not hiring. So at the very minimum, that's a real.
Those are more concrete
Yeah.
than some of the
Yeah.
other, I think,
Well,
Mike, you
while-
wouldn't take issue with that assumption, right?
No, while I have the floor, I want to say that, I want us to change the paradigm for how we do this. What I just described to you is what we've done for the 6 years I've served on the council, and it doesn't work. We start January with a balanced budget. We end December with $1 million in the hole, and we're taking money from the fund balance. So that's not right. That's what we need to fix, in my estimation. And as I said, part of that is knowing that the savings that we've identified are actually going to pan out. If they do, we'll be fine. If they don't, we're in a mess. And what I would say about that is if they don't work out, then we better be prepared as a council to find savings somewhere else.
I think you're right, and I think that we have to commit ourselves, no matter what we agree to do with the budget, that our stewardship, we don't just sit back on whatever January, when do we have to pay?
January 14th.
January 14th, done, okay, we can wash our hands and start thinking about it in September. We have to be really on top of things, and, one of my concerns is that I think we continue to let capital projects get away from us.
I agree.
I really do. And I think we have to be very, very serious about that. So I agree with you on a number of counts. So, Richard, with the amendments that were the ones that we had identified and the ones that the mayor added into, what would be the calculation on that? I don't know if you've run through the budget.
Bless you, Peter.
So your question is, if these total up to 861,979?
Yeah.
What would that do?
Yeah, what would it do? Where would we
Currently,
be?
the city's tax levy at the tax cap maximum is $10,368,523. That's already a 1.44% increase. Now, we have $1,666,000 of a deficit to cover. And like most years, we start with an unbalanced budget. Last year was the first year we were close to being balanced at $36,914. All the years I've been doing this back in 2008, we've always had a $1 million to $2 million deficit budgeted to be appropriated from the fund balance.
Right.
So this is a similar situation, except we don't have enough fund balance
To cover.
this. So, $1,665,852, and if these are 861,979, that means we have $803,873 left to cover. And if we divide that by the $10,368,523, that's another 7.8%.
Okay.
And that would leave what is going to wind up for available fund balance or unassigned fund balance alone at the end of 2016. Right now, I got it at about 360, 362.
362.
I revised the numbers, the updated numbers I had for you today are 10,000 less than this week.
Okay.
And that represents about 1.4, 1.5% of the operating budget, whether you look at the revenue side balance or the expense side balance.
Okay, so we know our philosophical and practical problems, and let's do at least this tonight. If we can just start with whomever would like to point out where they would like to identify something in the budget that they would like to look at, and We have a lot of department heads here. Rochelle?
I don't see anybody from the police department here. Well, there are 2 vehicles that are listed for purchase at $86,331.
There's 3.
3? Okay, 3.
Yeah.
3, okay. I know at the time that Chief Rassico was here, we talked at length about how much wear they get, you know, and the necessity for replacing them, but I just want to suggest that, you know, even though this will be virtually a drop in the bucket, that make the suggestion that a less expensive model car be used and switched out for, you know, just regular patrolling. So kind of like an economy car versus an SUV. I know that's not much, but
Well,
if we roll over to that kind of system in the future, you know, where we don't have these giant squad cars, we may realize a savings down the line that's actually pretty significant.
It'd be interesting if we could actually get a list of, you know, the state contracts for the
Right.
vehicles and what's being offered.
Yeah,
Right.
that's an important factor.
Right.
I
Because
was,
of-
I was even entertaining the idea that, do we really need 3? I know we
Right.
reduced it last year, but do we really need 3?
Right.
Right,
This
right,
year.
I know.
Did we just
yes,
get one in
you're
an
right.
accident or total?
One was just totaled, yeah.
Right, okay, that's what I thought. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Didn't think
Hanging
you
off the
did.
road.
2013 with about 100,000
Yeah.
miles, so it was at the end of its lifetime.
Yeah, but it still was,
It's
it's
one
gone.
way of getting rid of them.
Is it gone?
Okay, just didn't think a lot of you knew that.
Okay.
I heard that today.
All right, that's good.
Because it would be, I think, to look at the state contracts, what's being offered, an SUV, price-wise, might work out less than
Oh, yeah?
if you're bidding for something different.
Okay.
Yep. So,
Well, at least ask that question.
Yep.
I think the question is, do we need 3? Yeah, that's one you're questioning, right? Michelle?
Yeah.
Well, we need at least
Well,
one.
no, I
But
mean,
that's what
I
it
was,
is, one.
I was looking for a better price
on a
and,
different model vehicle.
yeah.
Oh, okay, well, I was thinking about reducing it down, but when I heard that we
Right.
were out without one, I was thinking about going to
Yeah,
3.
but aren't they insured?
Well, yeah, but for very little, I'm sure, right?
No, we were gonna get, can't remember the numbers exactly on that. We're not gonna salvage it, we're gonna let them take it and salvage it, because we can't put it back on the road.
Right.
I think we're getting 11 grand out of it, so with another 12,000, we can buy new one. At 23,000 roughly per vehicle.
See, that seems.
And all of the equipment inside
It's transferable.
is transferable to a
Right.
new vehicle, so it's all outfitted with computers and cameras and everything they need.
Also whistles now.
Rochelle, do you have anything else?
Oh, I do, but I don't want to introduce anything right now.
Okay.
I'll see where the discussion goes.
Well, the other day, we were asked to go down and take a look, and I'm just doing my layman's work and thoughts and observations. I've mentioned it before, reducing overtime by 10%, we'd save 100,000. The phones that we pay out for the city are like $65,000. I don't know if that's set in stone, or we can go to get anybody else, or do they bid the phones out? Cleaning was another thing that I've had mentioned a couple times. These are 5-day-a-week jobs. Can we narrow them down to 2? Like you said, I think we're looking at that, splitting it between, but everybody has contracted services cleaning stuff. Some people do their own. I was looking at the PD, and I don't know if I'm right. If somebody wants to correct me, there's an IT item that amounts to $84,000. There's 3 lines. Don't we have an IT department, and can they work with that, or, I mean, the PD has always had a separate IT expense. I've never known why, no one's ever explained it to me. I'm sure there must be some kind of reason. The cars were something I was looking at.
You're looking in the police budget.
Yeah.
At IT.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's, what page is it?
Yeah, it ran 0 from
Yeah.
2015 to,
And if you add the 3 lines up, it's $84,000, or roughly there.
Right.
That's my math. It's not that great, but
Those are new captions, that they've broken those types of expenses out of other areas.
Okay.
See, that's why it's always
List
been,
them separately, so everybody could see what they were spending on IT.
Okay.
but
So, Richard, that's the same expense, just presented differently?
That's correct.
Okay.
what expense does it go to?
It used to be buried probably in contract services
Services.
or technical equipment or some of the other captions. So they broke them out this year to be more specific about what they were spending on.
Well, again, that was a mystery to me.
Well, they were buried before, that's right.
Yeah, now what is non-pay comp?
It's any kind of compensation that we pay out that isn't considered part of wages. Uniform allowance, college degree allowance, clothing allowance,
And that-
sick pay payout.
Okay. Because that amounts to $132,000.
Every year.
Is it mileage too, probably?
No.
No mileage.
Oh, okay.
no.
I wasn't sure.
Oh, that's it.
I got my answer on the parking officer, which was 43, which actually amounted to more because the traffic bureau. Rec complex regular pay is, for this next year, is $25,000 more. I don't know what items, I know that there are some new positions that people are trying to get, but a breakdown of where they are, I must have lost it. There's a marina regular pay, $18,000.
Yeah, that was because, Steve, do you want to address that? You talked about that in your presentation.
Yeah, sure. That's to offset the expense of DPW staff that's working out there on a regular basis. Taking
To
care
clean?
of the- no,
No?
taking care of the equipment, the docks, locking them down, setting them up, taking them down at the end
All right,
of the
and
year.
that was John, is John Duquette do that? Okay, I wasn't sure, that's why I had it down as a question mark, thank you. I did notice regular pay, and I understand there's contracts, there's raises, other stuff involved. There's an increase of $713,000, almost $714,000 in the regular pay item across the board. Now, if it includes new positions, obviously
Right.
that would drop down.
Right, because
Okay.
those were not taken out yet.
Right, that's why I kind of wanted to. Capital projects, does that affect our budget?
Only in the debt, not for the 17, but
Well,
in the debt
it
service
depends
long
on
run.
which capital projects.
Well, I'm looking at, and I might not be popular, but I don't think we need to spend $250,000 on base oval fields right now.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that,
it's definitely needed, but, you know, I think we could put our money somewhere else and make more money, or something else that would save, but I think that's a lot of money for.
that's, is as a project for 2017?
Yeah,
Yeah, the impact on the budget goes to 2018.
that goes into the next one, so that doesn't make a difference? Okay, good. I
Well,
didn't want it to.
It does.
Well, I mean, that's something to take a look at.
That's what we keep doing, we keep burying
Yeah.
ourselves in
Right.
leap
Yeah.
year.
And I think, like I said, and the reason why, like Mike was saying, we start out with this, or Richard was saying, we start out with a certain budget and then we have more expenditures. I mentioned the $306,000 that we spent over budgeted money. We just have to say no to some things unless they're immediate need. I think that's what has to be done. And if you want to be frugal about it, we got to be frugal. Now's the time to do it. So those are just some observations I spent, and thank you for your time. If we could knock 100,000, 200,000 away, maybe the tax won't go up 6 or 7%, I don't know. Who knows? Thank you for your time and attention.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have anything they identified?
I had a meeting with Steve last week, and he kind of combed through, and he said that he probably had around 50,000.
That you could cut?
If we had to, but
Absolutely had to.
we're,
Yeah, yeah.
cutting people and things that are necessary. So
Did you identify
If
like?
everyone is doing austerity, then that's what I can do. If I'm the only one, I will do it.
Right.
Very right, so.
Could you explain we got a printout from Richard, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
We got a printout of the fund balances from 2012 through 2016. And rec complex is from 2012, consistently running at a deficit there. Could you put that into some kind of context to me that helps me to understand why that happens?
I didn't see that.
Okay, would you look at?
Can we look at it now and then the answer?
Yeah, you can take your time.
Okay, I will.
Doesn't make
Yeah,
sense, so,
thank you.
go ahead.
Mike?
I just have one thing that came to mind this week. We spend a lot of money on software, and I would like to ask Brian if he would mind doing a software inventory for us and to see if there are any opportunities to consolidate and save money by reducing our.
Are you referring to a specific software package?
No, no. I'm just saying that a lot of times organizations buy software and discover 5 years later, gee, we haven't touched this, but we're still paying support for it.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, we actually inventory pretty much daily, so as far as the software inventory, I can do that. But I can tell you, almost without a doubt, that is not the case for us. In fact, we tend not to buy things as much as possible. But yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure which lines you're looking at.
I'm not saying you have to do that by January 15th. It may not even happen this year, but it's a worthwhile exercise to see if there are any savings to be had by.
So one thing that a lot of people, well, a lot of organizations purchase, like subscription agreement, and we don't even do that. We buy the license, no subscription agreement, and we basically run it into the ground until we replace the machine. But yeah, absolutely, we can put some numbers together.
Okay, thank you.
And Brian, while we're with you, you discussed to borrow money to save money at one time for some updates.
Well, I didn't specifically
And-
suggest borrowing money.
Well,
What I
use
suggested was is you could spend,
12.
if you buy things in basically blocks of 3, we end up getting the third of it for free.
And that was the 12, 12, and 12,000 we
It
talked
was
for
like
36.
$100,000 savings over about 9 years, but it does require upfront spending.
So that's
This
the,
may not be the year for that.
Right.
so that's the technical equipment we're speaking on?
No, it's mostly
Or-
renewals. It's actually renewals on things like antivirus, firewall services, things like that. So you tend to give you a pretty good break if you buy it in a 3-year block versus a year, and a year. So effectively, you get a year for free if you do it like that.
Is that a running offer, or is that?
Almost always, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not seen that where that wasn't the case. It's not special or anything that they just tend to give you a good discount for buying
Okay.
your packages.
So you say it may not be the year to do it, what are you saying?
Well, I mean,
Can you
you're
attach?
looking at expenses, but
Doesn't mean anything.
you're talking, you're
Okay, sure.
robbing Peter to pay Paul in effect, but, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a long-term expense to save, that's in 9 years, it'll save you $100,000. If you can't wait that long, then that's fine. I
Yeah,
mean,
you should.
it doesn't, operationally, it doesn't make any difference to me. It's really where you want to put the savings on the balance sheet. Do you want it 3 years from now, or do you want it now?
Mhm. So, on
And to be clear, the budget I requested, only requested it in 1-year increments,
Increments.
did not request a
Right.
3-year.
so in terms of the technical equipment, the projection was 53,000, but I think we're at 34. Is that what we discussed previously?
Not sure what you were referring
We,
With a 58% increase up to 91,000?
to. So part of that, remember, we talked about a PC replacement plan?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we're actually, many of the machines we're working on are getting about 8 years old next budget year.
I think we talked 70 or 7 years or older.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was 30, some of that was replacement plan for those machines. A fifth of those machines, not all of them, a fifth of them.
Okay, that's what that's at, a fifth of them? Okay.
do you have any more questions if you can?
No, not of Brian, no.
I was going to chime in and ask about your training and education budget. I think it was about 5,000 something.
Well, we set it to 3,500 last year, and we missed we missed a pretty important conference that I think we probably should be at again this year, but
All right. I remember how last year we tried to evaluate travel in terms of what is absolutely, necessary for certification and so forth. Now, how would that budget fit into that?
There's a lot of travel that we do in-state that is, I would call critical, but as far as the out-of-state stuff, nothing is necessary for certification or anything like that.
Right. So, the part of the discussion last year was to, look for alternatives that you might be able to access online and so forth, but to really limit all travel, not just for your department, but all travel in all departments to that which is only necessary or compulsory.
To that
Okay.
end, we should take the $2,500 out of the mayor's travel budget. Since we've been doing that to everybody else. Anybody else have something more?
I'd ask Chief Lawless. The truck bay addition, is that to coincide with the new truck?
Yes,
So if you get a new truck and you don't get an addition, what would become of the truck?
you'll be able to do it,
Acquire the truck?
acquire the truck.
Okay.
We currently, both of the engines at Station 2 broke last week. So they were out, and we actually borrowed an engine from District 3. It's the only one around us that would fit in our station. So
Okay, because you had a major repair on the one that you're looking to replace.
did I have a major repair?
I think you discussed that at last
Yes, the front
time.
end's been replaced, the suspension's been replaced, we'll be back on Friday.
Okay. So then I'm seeing in 18, an ambulance request?
Yes,
Okay. And then in 2020, $500,000 for another truck, is it?
right, that was the plan that former chief had put out for a fleet replacement. Maybe I can push that back.
Okay. All right, thanks. Oh, and I have one other question, and I'm not sure where this goes. Let's see here. We have $50,000 for the seawall along, just across the street out to the 50,000. Where is that coming from? The expense? It is general fund? How bad is that? I mean, if there was other things to take place there, would that?
Well, we're trying to put a Band-Aid on it and kind of postpone those repairs because I'm hoping that when the NICEAG remediation comes through that stretch.
That they help out with it.
That we might be able to do it. But the steps right now are pretty bad, so we have to somehow rope them off, close them off, something, and probably wouldn't be real pretty. But yeah, we could not do that and postpone that for a year or maybe be 3 to 5 by the time NICEAG's down there.
What kind of erosion will take place? I mean, does that present any hazard in terms of erosion to the bank?
Not erosion per se, no. The steps go actually down from the grass down to water level, but the seawall there is kind of taking a beating, and it's in
Right.
pretty rough shape. The stairs are the worst of it, but the whole wall is showing signs of some pretty
Right.
severe deterioration. We can definitely postpone it for, a year or possibly longer.
That's by the Champlain Monument?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Because I don't think they're actually used, are they, the stairs to
Oh.
access to the river?
Oh, yeah. They're used a lot. That's a question I need to ask. You cordon it up, you put signs up, don't enter, somebody goes down there and something happens, are we still liable?
Well, that's.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's an immediate necessity because something's gonna happen to somebody there, and I think that needs to be done. And not for the looks. I don't care about, I look for the safety. That's the same thing when I talked about a few years back when we were having our events, and I got Mike at DPW to put those fences up, just so we were a little bit more safe, because I'd see kids looking and leaning over there, and that's what's gonna happen, because I just fear that the city having a lawsuit against them, It's bad enough like it is, and it's gonna cost a lot of money. I think that's a necessity. This is my own opinion.
I have a question about the mayor's list of savings. He mentioned saving 42,000 plus 24,177 for benefits for parking violations worker. So that's a savings. Did we also book some revenue anticipating the presence of that person, and should that also be reduced?
Yeah.
No.
No?
No. Right now, the
Police
police department is
departments.
covering the parking violation with an officer.
Okay.
This is to replace the parking enforcement officer that's an ASME union person who hasn't been in that job for a little bit over a year.
Right.
The revenue has been higher this year as police officers have been doing work. Bob Adams, however, he's retiring. Probably shouldn't have said his name, right?
Well,
Right.
Anyways, so they can cover that with an officer.
And we
I'm
can-
speaking for them, and they'll probably say, no, we can't, but they have to.
They have been.
yeah.
An existing
But it wouldn't
officer,
affect the revenue. The revenue would be the same.
because it will be covered.
It'll be covered.
Right.
And you said it's more effective with a police officer doing it. Well, it just
The
seems
current
to
officer is
be
doing
that.
a good job. Actually, he's increased the revenue.
Yeah.
Is there also other benefits to having a police officer in that vicinity?
That I
wonder.
can't comment on.
Okay. I guess I'm just thinking out loud.
Mike, is that with the police department? Because I got a question about that.
Am I done?
No, with the police.
Yeah.
Because we probably have other things that,
Yeah.
I just wanted, I have a question. I don't know who can answer this. The crossing guards, they're under the police department, am I right? They get paid under the police department?
They have their own department.
They have their own department. Now, do they get raises other than minimum wage or whatever they make? Because I was told, and I don't know, that when somebody got a raise, all the crossing guards all got one. And I mean, not that I don't deserve one, but where does it fit? Who sees that? How do we know? Because in the last 3 years, been so many questions. And if people are sitting here today, a little confused on money coming here, money was hidden over there, wonder what we're looking at. And it's gotta be a lot more clear. Same thing with the contracted services. Okay, we got this. Well, how much is done for this? We should itemize every line in the contract services departments too, because we don't know where this stuff comes from. And to me, if we haven't done that, I don't know who would be responsible for doing that. As a council, and I think it's a little bit lazy. I mean, we should get more involved, and we should have a breakdown, and it would be a lot easier, it would have been a lot easier for me. I just throwing that at people here that may be new and have ears that may want to listen, and maybe in 3 years from now, they won't feel the same way as I have the last 3 years, so. But I just was wondering, did they get a raise?
They were more than minimum wage.
Right, so you had to bring them up to it.
No, they've been more than minimum.
Oh, they've been more than
wage
minimum wage.
consistently.
Okay.
But they were budgeted for a 21% increase this year.
And any reason?
Police department decided to do it. I was told they had already done it.
You were told they already did it.
Yeah, I usually find out last.
And you're the finance officer.
Right, but I usually find out last about those.
And that's happened a lot, hasn't it?
Well, it eventually comes to me.
Yeah, 'cause you gotta
They have to
pay
something
it.
or receive something, so we eventually find out. But there
Yeah.
wasn't any discussion about it that I was aware of.
Right, okay.
But it is 21% increase.
What does that account, how does that pan out in terms of hourly wage?
They were at roughly 10.
10.60
So they're
now.
gonna be at 12.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's bad, but again, who authorized it? Who did this? Who did that?
Page 9?
Yeah.
What I printed out today.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
And it's also in the payroll
yeah,
he signed.
yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks. It was a police department matter that I wanted to throw out there so I wouldn't forget. Thanks, Mike.
So the total budget there is about 56,000 for payroll, 56.5 for all their supplies. They're not full-time.
No, they're not. And there aren't too many, are there? Like 5 or 6 now?
Six, I
6
believe.
now, yeah.
Maybe seven.
Seven, I
But they
think.
also get
Seven.
unemployment.
Right, they get unemployment out?
Yeah,
We have to pay that.
yes, directly. Direct expense each year.
Okay, I have.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome, Paul. I have one more question about health insurance that the mayor identified, $228,621 in savings. Now, where's that coming from?
We got a different quote for the projected expense of the healthcare system back in October after the council decided that there wasn't going to be a United Healthcare Schedule F option and that all of the retirees wouldn't be moving to a Medicare Advantage plan. So what was originally budgeted at about 5.7 million had to be increased to 6.1 million. Now it's back to, down to 5.7 million based on the 71 Humana retirees remaining in an Advantage plan, and the new plans that were approved by AFSCME are also generating some more savings on a projected basis because people are moving to the PPO and the reduced traditional plan. So that's where that difference comes from. It was down, had to put it up, and now it can go back down.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna grab the floor here while there's a space, because I had asked Steve about the printout that Richard had done us regarding the fund balances from the various, what do you call them? Yeah. Yes. So Steve was going to take the opportunity to address what appears to be a running deficit in those
So
funds.
there's 3 sections to my budget. Rec administration, which is another park rec complex, which is the facilities, and revenue, which largely comes from rec complex facilities. When you factor all 3 of those together, I try to be as efficient as I can. Sometimes in a given year, I'll pull somebody from rec administration budgetarily, put it in rec complex because that's what's working. Sometimes it goes back the other way. In 2017, I'm proposing to have an individual go to rec administration. But when you factor all that together, the recreation cost to the city since 2013 has only gone up 7%. So, you know, we're making $260,000 more than we did in 2013. You know, we're spending a little more also that goes along with that. But in general, you know, in that time frame, it's been pretty solid, you know, kind of growing with our revenues.
Okay.
So if there's a deficit in rec complex, in large part, it may be because I've moved somebody there from rec administration and that section has dropped. So there's been an 18% decrease since 2013 in rec administration. And, you know, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, just working the funds against each other sometimes to make it as efficient as I can.
Yeah, but we still got red here, so how come it's not, how come it shows up that way? I mean, I guess I'm not
So I'm
understanding.
spending less in rec administration, but I'm spending more in rec complex.
So can you keep what your budget in administration, but just utilize people in the other spot without taking them back and flipping them flop?
And we'll check those things there.
You know,
I'm just asking.
Yeah, so I could. When I got here in 2008, the gentleman that was there long-term before me, I'm like, he was there short-term, was, at least in my opinion, from what I saw, doing exactly that, pushing as much as he could into rec admin, basically so that he wouldn't get those questions.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's right. I mean,
No, I agree.
We're gonna call it like it is, at least for me. If a lot of our attention and focus is going to a rec complex, for example, we've had 60 more teams in the last 3 years each session in our indoor field sports. And that's a good example as to why we want to move somebody and load our rec complex at one, because we have more services there. We're servicing literally twice as many people in that one facility than we did 3 years ago. So that does cost a little more. Of course, the revenue side
Sure.
picks up as well. 37% in fact in that 3 years in terms of revenue jump. You know, that's not bad.
No.
You know,
Well,
so.
When you and I sat down,
Yeah.
that cleared so much up for me as far as doing that, that it made a lot of sense to me. That's why I never questioned it, because you're utilizing that to make more, and it's just that, it was very understandable on how and why you did that, but.
You know, 2015 was really rough. There's a lot of unexpected big things that happened, like the beach, for example, with water quality, and there was a lump sum health insurance thing that just kind of that needed to be put in rec complex. It wasn't there for years. Just kind of got dropped in. So you can't budget for some of those things. That was pretty rough, and so that trickled into 2016. Obviously, this year was also pretty thin, and so it's really just trying to make, not lose any services. It'd be very easy to cut, except that the community's demanding something specific or services that we're providing. And you know, we're still trying to provide that while also finding places to surgically cut and change things, to just to really make it work.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we always see the negatives coming out, but we usually don't see what's positive coming in. I mean, you talked about it and I saw where it was.
Yeah.
So it's, when we see the expenses and they come to the negative, we don't see the positives coming in. We should be able to see that.
Yeah. Well, Richard, how do you make sense of this, just to get another perspective on this? You know, what's your view of Steve's explanation, my question? You know, how can you explain it to me another way so I get it?
The expenses have exceeded the revenues every year, so that it produces a loss, and therefore there's a negative fund balance in the unassigned available portion.
So you're saying that, but you just said, didn't you, that the
Rec complex
revenues,
has been exceeding their
just for that
revenues,
one
their expenses.
entity?
And if the general fund doesn't supplement the transfer at the end of the year to balance
Right.
their costs, then there's gonna be a loss and it goes through their fund balance as a negative. So
And-
it's accumulated 40,000
Yep.
roughly at the end of 2015, and I haven't updated that schedule for the other funds except for the general fund, so, but that's the status of the thing.
Well, and
And you see it in the weekly cash reports. I
Right.
think it's 56,000 or so as of last week.
Mhm.
It's negative. And that's on a cash basis, which is different than on a income statement, you know, profit and loss basis.
And what I would just like to remark on that is that rec isn't its own enterprise. It's not MLD. It's not self-generated. I mean, these are services that we provide to the community.
Like the
And-
library.
Right. So, I mean,
Right.
you can't ask that every department generate all of its own revenue in order to provide the services that we're asking them to provide. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's where your ideas too about doing something different now, talking about that seriously next year, would really involving, you know, community board and so forth, like the library, would be worthwhile.
Yeah, and that's my effort to try to get.
No,
to
I
that
understand.
point.
I think that's a promising solution, but, I mean, my question is, what do we do in the meantime when we can't seem to subsidize this particular enterprise, and we're in a period of kind of financial crisis, you know? I mean, even though I understand and appreciate the value of everything that the rec department does, that's a consistently troublesome area that I think we need to look at seriously and figure out how to deal with it.
Well, and I guess, again, philosophically, it's troublesome if you have an expectation that it's self-generating completely and self-sustaining
Yeah,
completely.
because there are other departments that exceeded their budget that don't take anything.
Are funded out of the general fund.
Yeah, exactly, that don't do that. I mean, if
Right,
that was the
okay.
case, we'd even be more in a hole,
Right.
so.
Like,
I have a question for Steve while we're on the subject of recreation. There's some money allocated to each of the parks in the city, and that's in your budget, right? And yet, over in the Public Works budget, there's a thing called Parks and Beautification. That's, looks like about $117,000. Is there some value to combine those?
Well, that's our groundskeeping. We mold.
You do the groundskeeping for all the
We also do all
parks.
the bike trails and all.
Yep.
So that's where that is.
And the things that happen for the parks then are things like materials and supplies, building and ground supplies, electric, water, sewer, repairs to equipment, repairs to buildings. You have that for each of the parks. Is there some advantage to combining those two somehow? Letting DPW take over those responsibilities?
I like it, let's do it.
No.
That's
No,
awesome.
we have to talk about it. Is it,
I have one ground,
Yeah.
one ground, and in the summertime, we put temporary on, it's augmented crew.
Yes.
And we do 166 acres.
I'm trying to look at this.
well, who spends your money, Steve? Who makes sure this money gets spent, and one of your employees, or?
No, I do, I approve every single purchase.
But-
So, you know, I mean, we get utility bills
Okay, if you
after
need-
it happens. so
If you need a light bulb in one of the park buildings, who puts it in?
Our staff does.
Your staff?
So,
Okay.
think of it this way, other than the sports fields, they mow the grass everywhere, for the most part. We take care of the infields and prep them for all the teams that are playing. We handle all of the man-made structures in a park, for example. And so, any repairs that are made in those cases come out of exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
You know, they're grass, we're stuff.
You line the fields, so if there's a
Yeah.
certain field needs so much money, that's where your expenses come out of there,
That's
a
right.
line for that.
Yeah, we're buying, you
Yeah.
know, chalk,
Yep,
filter,
yep,
clay,
yep.
those kinds of things.
But I
nets.
know Mike
Yeah.
knows everything and maybe even more than everything. His
Including
department.
in my groundskeeping budget is the tree house and monument repairs, which we don't basically do, we do some cleanup. That was put in my budget,
Yeah.
my groundskeeping budget. Monument repairs alone is $11,000. Okay, the tree house is $10,000.
So I don't know how, do you spend all this money in all those parks every year?
Pretty much.
It's razor thin in terms of whether we do or not. We get it pretty close.
I wish you guys would get your heads together, you two, and Mike, you three, Mike and Steve, and talk about how maybe those functions could be combined. Maybe there's some savings there.
Yes, we can do that.
Just to say, we've never done that before, doesn't mean we can't look at it now, and at least consider the idea.
Steve, question on the fence, that blue mat, there was something like for 10,000, don't we already have that up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what are you looking?
There was a I noticed a $10,000 for fencing for 2017. I gotta find it here, but I thought that we had already done that. You did the blue mat fence and then you took that one and put it down somewhere else, didn't you?
Yeah, and it says blue mat.
I thought it said that.
No,
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think
No, I
it's
think those are general parks repairs.
that just has
South Acres. I think.
supplies, electric,
Oh, I know.
water, sewer.
I was so, oh wait, okay. Probably because I was just doing this at 1 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I'm wrong, which is possible.
Mike, I have a question about separation pay. $35,000 separation pay.
How much?
35, yeah, 35,000.
What
Well, it appears it's 1,500 under street administration, and then it also appears in,
Water.
yeah, exactly,
D&D and Sims, yes.
yeah.
That's how we divide it up, we have an individual.
But what's the separation pay?
That's people who retired,
Right,
and they have their sick leave buyback, or. they use
right.
that.
So you have a retirement.
We have monies for paying that.
Anybody else have anything?
John Rush, you're not getting away with this easy. You're WCPC, right, or whatever it is? Let me ask you a question on, when we receive our weekly printouts, I noticed Adirondack Storage Barns, do we pay $63.45 every month?
That was the purchase of the barn.
That was, I didn't know, I just said storage barn, I didn't know if we
Yeah, that
kept
was-
stuff there, okay. And that's just a one-time thing?
Yeah.
Thank you. Answered that
I'm not
question.
sure if that was for the trailers or parts or tires or whatever.
Well, I was just thinking if we paid storage somewhere that we could try to maybe find other places to get it done, but that answers that.
And
Thanks, John.
The fencing you were looking for was under the capital projects.
Okay.
Trombley Park fence,
Right on the
20,000.
corner.
Oh, that's the Tremblay Park fence, okay. That's gonna cost
Page 7
$10,000?
of 8 of
Is
the
that
capital
20?
projects for 2017.
That, 20,000?
20,000.
That little area is gonna cost $20,000?
No, I think that's a misprint. There's fence work all around.
Yeah.
In all of our parks.
Yeah.
That will amount to all of that.
Oh, it's gonna, okay. It's not just the one spot, okay, that's what, oh, thank you.
So what should that say, Steve?
Parks.
Parks fencing?
It should be all park fencing. Okay, because I used
Once
to live on
again.
Tremblay.
Anybody else have anything else?
I do.
Michelle?
Looking at regular pay for recreation administration with, I know that you've covered this before for us, but just once again, with the, I guess, inclusion of another position in that line, correct? Is what accounts for the 87% increase in your,
No, that was just fixing the error that was the exclusion of 2016.
okay.
But you did add to that and took away some other temporary money, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So you covered that, whatever you did.
Not entirely.
No, I
yeah,
understand.
it was-
Yeah, no, I've been,
Yeah, but our rec, and that's actually a good example of rec administration, we cut back on park staffing, so even I think today we don't have anybody that close parks and close them down at 3 o'clock, like the bathrooms, because we don't have anybody. That's a good example of using rec administration to offset that change in rec complex.
Could you get along with fewer managers?
No, I did not.
And why don't you give me a little more information?
Absolutely not, I could not do it. We're running 7 days a week, 15 hours a day, 361 days a year. We've got literally what amounts to thousands of people going in and out of that civic center, tens of thousands of people going in and out of that beach, 100,000 people going in and out of that city recreation center. So having somebody with day-to-day operations mindset is absolutely crucial. My job is to look at more long-term, long-range things that assist our staff in getting done everything that they need to get done. They will do anything from make schedules, take care of equipment, work with, at a smaller level, some vendors that are coming in, or equipment repair, things like that. They will answer all of those, what I just mentioned, hundreds of thousands of people, answer questions, complaints, be there, provide a service that they need to provide. So, no, I could not get along without cutting back any managers.
I don't know if we can afford it, though. I mean, I'd like some discussion regarding that question. It's a really hard question, but if you combine it with, however we look at the rec complex fund, I don't know if one really has strict bearing on the other, but I think it's worth exploring. I think in a time when we're struggling fiscally in the city, we need to look at. Maybe not even just in your department, but across the board, management and the cost effectiveness of some of those positions. You know, that we have to consider whether we're top-heavy. And that's difficult, but I believe it's necessary.
Councilor Armstrong, in our department, just in terms of employees in a given year, we're in between 60 and 80 people. That's direct employees, people that are paid through finance, you know, dog farms, whatever. On top of that, we have another maybe 50 or 60 contract labor people who are anything from coaches to referees to trainers to you name it, the people that are out there. So when you look at the ratios of management to employees, those are the numbers we're talking about. So if 3 managers to over 100 people is excessive, then I think, I disagree with that, frankly. So,
That's a good point. I appreciate that point.
Our ratios are probably the worst in the city. You want to look at it that way. So, that's something that I don't think is, for me, it's just.
If I could have more details regarding that, though, I mean, I think a supervisory role in terms, I don't know if you can count the coaches and, all those numbers of employees. I would just like to get an analysis so that I can get a better picture and that we might, discuss. Your employees, you say have 100, you said?
Over 100.
Yeah, over 100. So let's see how that works on paper.
My little bit of knowledge on that is that anybody officiates gets paid by the city in the rec department, and you need to have officials. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
but
You
that
can't let
person-
them, I'm just saying, you can't let them go. I mean, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work when you're paying all kinds of officials, sending out checks, keeping track of it. Been in the recreational field a lot in my life, still involved in it, and I don't know if, it's not all at once, but it does spread out. But I do want to take a look at other departments. You got a fire chief that supervises 37 people, is the only one. Something to think about. So that's 1 to 37. So if you're talking 3 to 100, that's 1 to 35, 40. Mike, you guys got how many people working for you?
41.
41.
Then
Then you got your other temps and, yeah.
Just 15
So,
more.
which makes 1 to 40, 1 to 50. That's a pretty good ratio, I think, as far as that goes.
How many layers of management are there between the lowest guy in your hierarchy and you?
I'm the lowest guy, Mike.
Oh, come on.
That's accurate. I'm at the bottom of the pyramid. And I serve our managers who serve our front desk employees.
How many
So
people,
It's 2 layers.
how many people between the lowest guy and you?
2.
Okay,
I'm sorry, 1 person between me and the lowest.
okay, so you got 2 layers of management
Yeah,
then?
we're very
Okay.
flat.
Okay. Thank you.
One last thing. Richard, question. If there was amendment to be proposed, and it was discussed and voted on and approved, how much would $100,000 reduction in the budget drop our tax rate?
Won't be another 1%.
1%, okay? So you're talking 9 now? You're talking about 9
Yeah.
with the figures you're talking? So if we're dropping 1%, that's 8. That's not bad. I would love to propose cutting overtime 10%.
Yeah, with these adjustments, like I said, it would be an additional 7.753.
Right.
And you add that to
I thought that's what it was.
1.44, which is where we are right now with the tax levy increase. Not to be confused
Right.
with the omitted taxes. That means it's a 9.19% total levy increase, or property tax bill increase. So it's less than 10%.
So how do I go about doing that?
Well, all right, let me,
No, that's-
okay, let's hang on a second.
Okay,
Does
'cause that
anybody
cleared
else
up a lot.
have any other questions for any managers or on your punch list, Dale?
Just for clarification, Richard, on line 6,000, 6,500, under debt service, I know we retired, I'll wait till you're there.
What page are you on?
I'm actually on page 44, under debt service, line 6,000, 6,500.
Are you in the mayor's budget?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
44.
Okay.
You there? Okay.
Yep.
Line 6,000, we see and then line 6,500 is the 100%, so that's the payoff, correct? Where we're looking at the reduction, 121,868 across for 16, that didn't fluctuate.
Well, under the mayor's budget, we didn't budget any principal from a reserve, and that's why it's a
Zero.
or a 100% negative.
Okay,
That's changed now.
right.
So we have to look at this under what the, council level budget would have right now, because we revised the debt service projection for 2017, now that we floated the ban again for another year, because we hadn't done that at this point in time.
Right.
And we've shored up what the debt service is gonna be for 2017. It's about $1.7 million for the general fund total. So the actual question is,
1,700,000 or 1,585,000 maybe?
actually, the debt service now for the general fund is $1,705,264. And on this page, that is $1,706,229. So the actual debt service for the general fund went down about $1,000.
Okay, so
That'll be a short amount.
it's pretty
And
constant.
there will be the principal reserve being paid out because we got a bond premium on the van sale. And so that'll be on that line item.
So that bond premium,
Was 65,000 roughly? So that's what'll show up on that line item.
is that a new revelation, that bond
No,
premium?
usually
Okay,
when we sell a van, the way they buy down the interest rate is, we sell the van for a certain amount. They pay a premium over that to buy the rate down lower so that they're more competitive and they win the bid.
right,
So in this case, I think it was 65,800 or something in that neighborhood.
okay.
And what you see on that page is the end of the debt reserve where we had overfunded ourselves for roughly $1 million,
Right.
and we, is slowly paying that
Yep.
out against the
Right.
debt service. So that's why you see that reserve going to zero. But now it'll be bumped back up by the premium we just earned on the ban
Okay.
from 2016.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody?
Yes. Just in regards to overtime, we got department heads here. Getting some feedback, could that be doable, dropping 10% over, 1%, 10% funds in overtime? By your quietness, I don't think that's wanted, but, well, because some departments have, 10% would be $50. There's other departments that would be $1,700. If you look at water pollution control plant, OT pay, BOD, what does that mean, John?
Chemical accident.
Okay.
Come out of the general fund.
I know, I'm just saying, but, I mean, I understand it doesn't come out of it, but I just see increases all over. I know you take care of yourselves, but, we keep reducing everybody else's departments. I think we should try to be a little bit more fair to those departments that don't take care of themselves, that's all. I just was wondering how would that be as far as acceptable, and
Okay, so let me,
if you have any insight, you can send me a.
right, okay,
email.
so let's,
Because Becky wants to move on.
I do want to move on to the next step. And that is, counselors now have to propose amendments to the budget. And that could be where you make an inquiry on overtime. Rochelle may say, I want to make an amendment to, pull a position out of rec. Okay, this is where we are now. This is our responsibility. So we have 2 regular sessions. We have one more session, regular session in 2016. That's next Wednesday. And then we have our first session of the new year and the new council on January 5th. Also be our organizing session. So we need to propose the amendments, vote on them, make decisions as best we can so that we can pass a budget and get the tax warrant done. And that means the next, I don't know what the organization session is going to lead to, but, it's due on the 14th. There would be a scheduled session on the 12th. So that's what we have to do now. We have to start coming to the table with amendments, giving our arguments for why we think these amendments should be what the budget should be. And then we got to vote on them. So I would say that we all, in the next week, well, maybe after Sunday, make your inquiries, get the information that you can. Actually, city workers, Monday is a holiday. We don't have a lot more time, but we do have another session in January. So get your information that you need, that you feel, and bring your amendments and be prepared with arguments for them, and we'll vote on them. Does that sound fair?
I took notes about, tried to take notes of what everybody said tonight. Would you like for me to distribute those?
That would be great.
Would you like to see them first? Would you like for me to send them to you?
No, as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much the end of my tenure as budget officer, this meeting.
Lucky
And the
girl.
rest that just goes for us to do this in collaboration as council.
Okay.
By email and in open discussion next Wednesday.
Okay.
To the list of adjustments,
Yes.
you all can add on 6,250 because we took that out of the historic
Right.
budget. I didn't adjust any numbers officially yet because we haven't done amendments.
Right.
That's what we add on with this.
And that's where, I know we're making Richard's job difficult, but if we can offer amendments and have him run it, and so that we can see what any given budget would come out to with the amendments. And as Mike pointed out, some of the amendments may be less tangible or less certain than others, but I think that might be true right down the board. The only time we get really tangible and concrete is when we cut something out that's right there. But it is a complex budget. So, with that said, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Ho, ho, ho.
Thank you very much to all the managers.
Thank you.
Hody do. Hody do. Brian. Okay, thanks, Bill.